72 hours. That's all she had. 75,000 lives hanging in the balance. One woman, one impossible choice, and a plan so dangerous it could destroy everything she'd built.
Every Jew, young and old, women and children, March 7th, let none survive the slaughter.
If I speak, I die. If I stay silent, they all die.
Have you ever been the only one who could stop something terrible? When speaking up meant losing everything. Your job, your reputation, your safety. Today, we face our own moments of truth. Stay silent and stay safe. Or risk everything for what's right. But 2,500 years ago, in the most powerful empire on earth, a young woman faced the ultimate version of this choice. Her name was Esther. An orphan, a refugee, a hidden Jew in a hostile court. And she was about to prove that sometimes, the most unlikely person becomes the hero the world desperately needs. Our story begins in 480 BC, in Susa, capital of the Persian Empire. Among the Jewish exiles lived a man named Mordecai and his orphaned cousin, Hadassah, later called Esther. Her grandparents had been torn from Jerusalem when Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple. Now, 3 generations later, the Jews remained strangers in a strange land.
Remember, child, we are Jews, but here we must be careful. Not everyone welcomes our people.
But Uncle, why must we hide who we are? Aren't we all God's children?
Esther's beauty was undeniable, but Mordecai knew that in Persia, beauty could be a death sentence. He had no idea how prophetic his fears would prove to be. Meanwhile, King Xerxes, the same king who would later invade Greece, was displaying his wealth in a 180-day festival. The final week was a drunken celebration for all of Susa.
Bring Queen Vashti. Let all these men see the most beautiful woman in my empire.
But Queen Vashti refused. Whether from dignity, wisdom, or defiance, she would not parade herself before drunken men like a prized possession.
Tell the king I will not come. A queen is not a decoration for men's entertainment.
She refuses me? No woman defies the king of Persia.
My lord, if women see the queen disobey, chaos will follow. Every wife will rebel against her husband.
And so, in a fit of wounded pride and political paranoia, Xerxes banished Vashti forever. The throne was empty. The search for a new queen would begin. The decree went out across 127 provinces. Bring the most beautiful virgins to Susa. The king would choose his new queen from among them. This wasn't a fairy tale. These women were essentially kidnapped, taken from their families forever. Whether chosen as queen or not, they would never return home.
No, she's all I have left. Please, she's just a child.
Uncle, don't let them take me. I want to come home.
As Esther disappeared into the palace, Mordecai gave her one final desperate instruction.
Hide who you are. Tell no one you're Jewish. Your life depends on it.
In the harem, under the care of Hegai the eunuch, Esther began 12 months of preparation. 6 months with oil of myrrh, 6 months with perfumes and cosmetics.
You have something special, girl. But be careful. The king's favor can be as dangerous as his anger.
When Esther's turn came, she asked for nothing extra, only what Hegai recommended. Her natural grace and inner beauty captivated everyone who saw her.
What is your name, beautiful one? You're different from the others.
I am Esther, my lord. I live only to serve the king.
Xerxes loved Esther above all the other women. In the 7th year of his reign, he made her queen. But Esther's secret remained buried deep.
I am Queen of Persia, but I'm still a Jewish orphan inside.
Every day, Mordecai came to the palace gates, desperate for news of his beloved cousin. And every day, Esther kept her promise. Her identity remained secret. Then came the first test of Esther's position. Mordecai overheard 2 palace guards, Bigthan and Teresh, plotting to assassinate the king.
Tomorrow night, when he comes to his chambers, 1 strike and Xerxes is dead.
Mordecai sent words through the palace network. Esther reported the plot to Xerxes, giving credit to Mordecai.
My lord, a man named Mordecai at your gate discovered a plot against your life.
The plot was investigated, found true, and the conspirators executed. Mordecai's good deed was recorded in the royal chronicles, but he received no reward. Not yet. Meanwhile, Xerxes promoted a man named Haman, the Agagite, to the highest position in the kingdom. All officials were commanded to bow before him, but Mordecai refused to bow. As a Jew, he would bow only to God.
Mordecai, why don't you bow? The king commanded it. You'll get us all in trouble.
I am a Jew. I bow only to the Almighty God.
When Haman saw Mordecai's defiance, his rage was beyond measure. But killing one Jew wasn't enough for his wounded pride.
One Jew dares defy me, then all Jews will pay. I'll wipe them from the face of the earth.
Haman cast lots, called Pur in Persian, to choose the most auspicious date for his genocide. The lot fell on the 13th day of Adar, nearly a year away.
My king, there's a dangerous people scattered throughout your empire. They don't obey your laws. They're a threat to your rule. Do whatever you think best, Haman. You have my full authority.
With the king's ring, Haman had unlimited power. He immediately drafted the decree of destruction. The decree went out to all 127 provinces. On the 13th day of Adar, kill all Jews. Men, women, children. Take their possessions as plunder.
In 11 months, there won't be a single Jew left alive in the Persian Empire.
When Mordecai learned of the decree, his world shattered. Every Jew in the empire, including Queen Esther, was sentenced to death.
God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how can this be? Will you let your people perish?
Throughout the empire, Jews mourned. They fasted, wept, and prepared to die. But Mordecai had one desperate hope: Queen Esther.
Your Majesty, there's a man at the gate in sackcloth wailing. They say his name is Mordecai.
Mordecai, send him clothes immediately. Find out what's wrong.
But Mordecai refused the clothes. Instead, he gave Hathach a copy of Haman's decree and a desperate message.
Tell Esther she must go to the king. She must beg for our lives. She's our only hope.
When Esther read the decree, she realized the terrible truth. She was Jewish. She was also sentenced to die. But approaching the king uninvited meant certain death.
Tell Mordecai, anyone who approaches the king uninvited dies. It's been 30 days since he called for me.
Don't think you'll escape because you're in the palace. If you stay silent, help will come from elsewhere. But you and your family will die. Who knows? Maybe you became queen for such a time as this.
72 hours. That's what Esther asked for. 3 days of fasting and prayer before she would risk everything.
Gather all the Jews in Susa. Fast for me for 3 days. Then I'll go to the king. If I perish, I perish.
For 3 days and nights, no food passed their lips. No water touched their tongues. They prayed like their lives depended on it. Because they did. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes. Every step toward the throne room could be her last. The inner court. The king sat on his throne, conducting business. Esther appeared in the doorway, uninvited, unauthorized, risking instant death. For a moment that felt like eternity, the king stared at his queen. Then, slowly, he extended the golden scepter.
Queen Esther, what brings you here? Ask anything. Even half my kingdom is yours.
If it pleases the king, come with Haman to a banquet I've prepared for you today.
Esther's strategy was brilliant. She would make Haman feel honored, secure, before she struck. At the banquet, wine loosened tongues and lowered guards.
This is magnificent, my queen. Now tell me, what do you really want?
If the king is pleased with me, come again tomorrow, you and Haman to another banquet. Then I'll reveal my request.
I'm the only man invited to dine with the king and queen. But that Jew Mordecai still ruins my joy.
Build a gallows 75 feet high, hang Mordecai tomorrow, then enjoy your banquet.
That night, as carpenters built Mordecai's death trap, God was orchestrating the most incredible reversal in history. That same night, the king couldn't sleep. In his restlessness, he called for the royal chronicles to be read aloud.
Mordecai, the Jew, reported a conspiracy by Bigthan and Teresh to assassinate the king.
Wait, what reward did we give this Mordecai for saving my life?
Nothing, my lord. No reward was given.
At that exact moment, Haman arrived at the palace, eager to request permission to hang Mordecai on his new gallows.
Who's in the court? Bring them in. Haman, what should be done for a man the king wants to honor?
Who else would the king want to honor but me? Bring royal robes the king has worn, a horse the king has ridden. Let a noble prince lead him through the city proclaiming his honor.
Excellent. Do exactly that for Mordecai the Jew at the gate. Don't leave out a single detail.
The man who came to request Mordecai's execution was now forced to parade him through the streets as a hero.
This is what happens to the man the king delights to honor?
If this Mordecai is Jewish, this is just the beginning of your downfall. You cannot win against him.
At the second banquet, Esther knew the moment had come. No more strategy, no more delay. It was time for truth.
Enough suspense, my queen. What is your petition? Half my kingdom, just ask.
If I have found favor with you, my king, grant me my life, and grant my people their lives.
Your life? What do you mean? Who would dare threaten the queen?
We have been sold for destruction, my king. I and my people are to be killed, annihilated.
Who? Who dares do this? Where is this man who would touch my queen?
The enemy is this wicked Haman. He is our adversary and foe.
Haman knew his fate was sealed. In desperation, he threw himself at Queen Esther's feet, begging for mercy.
Will he even assault the queen in my own house before my very eyes?
My lord, there's a gallows 75 feet high at Haman's house. He built it for Mordecai, who saved your life.
Hang him on it.
The gallows Haman built for Mordecai became his own grave. The man who sought to destroy God's people was destroyed by his own hatred. Esther's courage didn't just save 75,000 lives, it changed the course of history. But her story isn't just ancient history. It's a blueprint for today. Right now, someone in your life needs you to be their Esther. A coworker facing harassment, a neighbor being bullied, a friend in an abusive relationship. Someone needs you to risk your comfort for their survival. Esther teaches us 3 life-changing truths. First, your position is not an accident. You're exactly where God needs you. Second, silence in the face of evil is complicity. Third, when you risk everything for others, God moves heaven and earth to help you. The question isn't whether you'll face an Esther moment. You will. The question is, will you have the courage to act? Will you risk your comfort for someone else's survival? Tell us in the comments, who is God calling you to stand up for? What's your for such a time as this moment? And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Remember, you were made for such a time as this.